Hi everyone, meet Gabriella, I'm Kinneret, and we're going to practice today the second step of SMTW game. The second step talks about the memory. I'd like to call it a root canal treatment. Yes, it's a little bit painful, but it's a great exercise to analyze memories from a totally different point of view that will allow you to unravel the pattern that you feel stuck with. So let's begin. Gabi, week number 2, we're talking about the memory. Memory is in the memory we have all what we need to learn about ourselves. All the treasures are hidden there. And if we last week what we did is the spider model, and the spider model was to figure out the two voices of the yin and the yang, two voices that the cigar that is hidden. This step in the game is to find the root canal. It's a root canal treatment. This is how I love to call it. And the reason it's called that way, it's because we have so many stories during our life, and we remember them because there is a reason we remember them. We remember them because in that specific stories, we have all the values, all the strength that we were born to express. And I love to see it as a metaphor of a tree, that this tree has like branches and leaves, but this tree has a root, and this root, it's actually the same root for all the stories. And only when we learn how to analyze the root from the right perspective, we can see how we can strive forward from a totally different place, because the root is the pattern of all the stories. And if we go back, it's the pattern of the DNA that we have from our parents, generation before, but this is not for now. This is for later. For now, all we need to do here is to analyze the memory. And for that, I would like us to take the kit. Right now we're going to stop. We're going to take the kit, and you will choose a card. It might be the same card that you chose today, if you want. And I'm going to lead you through that. Okay? Okay, so the card that you chose is Suffering, the card with a hand, right? And I would like you to right now locate the card in one of the 4 squares, except for the fire. The fire is the joy and the peace. Mm-hmm. And right now I'm encouraging you to raise up a memory from the lower level of emotions. So the memory will come, from a deep place that you haven't processed it yet, in the way that I want to lead you through this process. So it's either anger, fear, sadness, or worry.
This card of suffering pertaining to my issues with patience, actually, I feel goes with anger.
Okay. So we have anger and we have suffering. And if you think about those 2 words, anger and suffering, you have in your mind any memory that is coming up to your mind. And if not, take your time, close your eyes. I will lead you if you want. I will resonate the names, suffering and anger, until something will come up. Take a deep breath. Take it out very slowly. I'm gonna say 2 words, and any memory that is coming up, don't fight with it, just allow it to be. Anger, suffering. Anger, suffering.
I have a memory that has to do with anger, suffering, and my issues with patience. I was a very young girl, and it was movie night, because Friday night was movie night, but my mother had her boyfriend over, and they didn't want to do movie night. You know, we were going to do something else. Mm-hmm. And I was very upset because I said, but it's movie night. And I was losing my patience because I said, you know, it's movie night, and this is the night I was hoping for. And, you know, I when I look forward to things or I want things, I'm very intense about that. So I said, well, it has to be movie night. You know, I want it to be. And they said no. And I remember I was very upset by that. I felt, well, how could they do this to me? So there was like a loss of control over the situation. And, you know, I felt limited because I was the child and they were the adult and they were the ones that had made the decision. But, you know, to me, I was promised a movie night and that's what I wanted. And I felt like I was being betrayed because I thought, well, you know, she's picking her boyfriend before she's picking her daughter. And I remember too, because I was told, well, we could do movie night another Friday. And I said, well, no, but it's this Friday and I want it now. And they said, but the next Friday will be better because he won't be here and we'll enjoy it more. And I said, I don't know, because I want it now. I don't want the better next Friday. I want the Friday now. So I feel like, at least as an earlier recollection of memory of dealing with patience and anger and suffering, would be that. I did, however, in the end, I walked out of the apartment and I ran to the video store without my mother's permission and a few coins in my pocket because I said, I'm going to rent this movie regardless, until I got there and realized I wasn't an adult and I didn't know what the account code was, and I didn't have enough money to rent the video. And so even when I left my home, you know, rebelling against my mother, walking through the streets of Toronto as a 5-6-year-old girl, I got there and I realized that I couldn't rent it anyway because I wasn't in the position that I was able to rent the video. And I just got frustrated all over again. It was really working against me, but that's
and what's the end? Like when you came there, what happened?
Well, they were concerned because there was a 5-year-old girl trying to rent a video with a couple quarters in her pocket with no account information. And they asked me if I had a parents' phone number, and I only knew my dad's phone number, and they were divorced at the time. So they called and they said, your daughter is here in a random video store. And he started to lose his mind until my mother's arm reached over my shoulder. And I remember I saw it and she picked up the phone and she said, I'm here, don't worry. Apparently she had followed me all the way from the house, but she didn't let me know she was behind me because she said she wanted to see how far I was going to go.
Wow.
She said, look at this girl. Who does she think she is? I'm going to see how far she goes. I'm going to follow her. And she was shocked because I went all the way from my house to the video store. And she was annoyed because she thought for sure I was going to turn around and look for my mother. And I never did. I never once looked over my shoulder. I said, I'm going to go to this video store. I don't care what it takes.
Wow.
I got there, and of course I still couldn't get my video, and she grabbed me and took me back home, and I cried because I thought, well, I worked so hard to come here. I made it through the streets of Toronto in the middle of the night with coins in my pocket. I did everything I thought I could to get my video, and in the end I still couldn't get my video, and I was turned back at home, and I ended up with nothing.
What about a week after you see the movie? You watch a movie?
I probably did, because I don't recall. The thing is, what I did know is, as an adult, I know exactly which movie it was, and as an adult, I made sure I bought the movie and I had it so I can watch. Feifel Goes West.
Feifel Goes West.
A little mouse with his immigrant family who can't make it in the city of New York, and so they go to the West, where apparently there's bigger dreams and possibilities for them, and they start colonizing the West of the United States. A family of mice with a singing mouse and a burlesque cat.
Wow. That's, wow. It's so interesting, this movie, how it relates also to the, because, I don't know, we're going to figure this out soon.
There's something within the movie itself. There's a
We're gonna figure
message
this
within the
out,
fact
for
that
sure.
it's, yeah.
We're going to figure this out soon. Okay. So, you are 5.
Yeah, around.
Okay. Let's take right now. Normally, what people do, they connect the memory to a painful situation, experience that they had. So basically, memory is we relate it to something that we tell a very, painful story about the root, about one of the branches. But what we do here, I'm going to teach you how to observe the memory without judging it. And by that, we're going to take only the values and the strength. Okay? So let's begin. Let's begin about, tell me what kind of strength do you see in this story?
Determination, independence, authenticity. Self-gratification to me can still seem like a strength. I knew what would make me happy. I wanted it. I knew what my happiness lied in at that moment.
That's true. Like, I want it. I
know that I want it. Yeah.
Like, it's the passion. It's the, right?
Yeah, the
self-assurance,
self-assurance, confidence to be able to speak up and say, I want that. Confidence to be able to say, I'm going to go out into the streets. With that lack of fear. It was a huge moment of courage. It was one of those moments where I had no fear because I was so focused on the outcome of what I wanted, and anything that would have felt scary wasn't. I was on a path,
And you didn't look back.
And I didn't look. There was no regret either. No regret. No regret in my decisions.
Also, kind of like, if we look at it, we have communication with the mother, the authority, right? To allow yourself to confront, to get into confrontation with authority.
Yes.
With an authority. Confrontation. And to know how to stand still, like
stand my ground.
Yes. And it's a relationship between a promise of an adult and a child that wants the integrity,
I wanted what was promised to me. I said, we had an agreement, and I wanted both of us to stay true to that agreement, because we had both made a promise, and I thought she was just as responsible as I was to that promise.
Yeah.
To each other. And also because it was supposed to be a time of connection. Friday night was where, we finally had time to be with our mother. So it was about, respecting family time. It was
value
about
of family.
Family value. Yeah. That I thought
family time, like you really needed that bonding.
Yeah, because it wasn't just me watching the movie, because I'm sure she could have put us in the other room to watch. No, it was about the bonding between that.
And integrity. What do you think about the movie itself?
The movie itself.
That at the end, you watched it, like, later on in your life.
Later in my life, yeah.
That?
Yes.
And you did some kind of a closure. Like, the way to communicate with your inner child as an adult that remembers all kinds of things that unclosed, and to learn how to close them.
Yes.
Okay. What do you think about the movie itself?
I mean, I love it. It's one of my favorite. It's got everything. It's got it's sadness and action and romance, and it's a little bit of everything. And it's about overcoming obstacles. It was about kind of being true to yourself, because the reason I liked it, there was a character in the movie, a little mouse girl, who wanted to be a singer, and everybody always made fun of her. They told her, stop singing, it's annoying, which I did as a little girl. I would always sing and people would say, stop singing, that's annoying. But in the movie, she would sing and people would say, stop singing, that's annoying. Until at one point, the evil character actually hears her and says, oh, what a godlike voice. She has to be on my stage, she's going to be the star of the show. And she always wanted to be the star. And then this evil character came with good intentions. He wanted her to be an actual star. Puts her on the stage and she goes, oh, I don't know if I can do this, which was always interesting because that's all she said. I'm going to be a star. And then someone said, I'm going to put you on stage. And she goes, well, I don't know if I can do this. And of course she had to do it. And then she gets on the stage, she does it, and she becomes a sensation. And that's just a small part of the film. But I remember that was one of my favorite parts was because I related directly to her, how she knew she had something. Everyone told her she didn't. She was afraid to do it when the chance came. But then when she went through it, all her dreams came true of what she wanted. And and what's funny is that's not even the main part of the film. That was a side story, but that was the side story that I loved the best.
How we can take it into a strength, because there is a big message here.
To stay true to one's ambitions and dreams. I like that because she was afraid, even though she said to everyone, I'm going to do great. And then when the opportunity came, she almost turned it down. Mm-hmm. She almost walked away from that. But she went through it. Mm-hmm. And that's one of my things too, is that I always say, I'm going to be big, I'm going to be amazing, I'm going to be great. And then someone says, here's your opportunity. And I go, that seems like a lot of hard work. I don't know, or that seems scary, or maybe I'm not good enough.
But then you go and you go through
You go and you do it.
And so you learn how to deal with flare of fear.
Yes. Flares of fear that come off.
Flares of fear.
Flares of fear.
I like it. Okay. So basically what we did right now, we took all the strength from that specific, story. I'm sure there is more. Like, for example, to get into the store and, to play the role of the big, to play a role that that you're not,
yeah,
but to learn how to play it, how, the outside world is trying to. So, and we have more, but basically those are the main. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to read it to you. And when I'm reading it to you, look at yourself now and pay attention and see if there is a correlation between your strength now, who you are now, to those that I'm reading. Determination, independency, authenticity, self-assurance, passionate, confident, courageous. I was on a path. No regrets, confrontations, value, holding high that family value, bonding, strive for integrity, and learning how to work with flares of fear.
I feel now that's still within me. It's all of that for sure is in me. I may have lost a little my control over it, or not really control, but my usage of it. Like, it doesn't come as naturally as it did when I was young. When I was younger, it was definitely more natural and it was freer. I didn't think about it. Now it takes a little bit more effort to be that way. Mm-hmm. I know it's in me and I see it, but I sometimes see that I give it in doses rather than that kind of like unrestrained, authentic who I am. Mm-hmm. My authenticity is restrained now rather than being kind of just completely free.
Okay. Might relate to the limiting belief, and yes. I will show you that. Because when we connected this card to one of the lower level of emotions, what we did, we brought it into the surface a memory, right? We connected a thought that it's already there, sit there in, kind of a connection, and it came up. And those muscles that you've trained since 6 years old up until now, they have been training during your years of life, and you created like a stiff muscles of all those muscles, right? Mind muscles. When I speak about muscles, it's a mind muscle. And this is who you are. And we know who we are when we're already in our stomach, connected to the umbilical cord. We know who we're supposed to be in this world. We know what we're supposed to express in this world. And when we grow up, we go through lots of experiences that says, in order to be me, I need to go through pain, which is X. I don't know, we're going to figure this out soon. And I will prove to myself that against all odds, I will be me. Against all the pain that I'm going to go through. Okay? So if we think about it, what kind of pain do you see there in this story? In order to be me, in order to stand still, be authentic, courageous, independent, go on my path, holding a very high value of family. What is the pain that is sitting there? Look at the story. What you needed to go through in this story?
Disappointment is that's on the tip of my, that's right there in the forefront. It was just one big, massive, collective disappointment.
Disappointment. But if you think about disappointment, it was specifically from, the authority. The disappointment that somebody else is telling you, no, you can't.
It was disappointment out of my control because it was my mother who said I couldn't. It was the video store person that said I didn't have the account info. It was the coins in my pocket that I didn't have enough. It
was your father on the phone?
Phone saying,
your mother grabbing you from...
Grabbing me from there after I had made it so far. There was a lot of disappointment and blame in the world around me, because there was one thing in that moment that I said, but I did everything right. I stayed true to myself. I stayed true to the promise. I walked the streets by myself. I had the coins in my pocket. I picked out the video. I gave a phone number. It wasn't the right phone number they got, but I gave a phone number. And that was the other thing too, because I said, I did everything I was supposed to do. I did everything that was supposed to lead me to get what I want. And to just be turned around and end up empty-handed. I remember that was disappointment too, because I said, but no, this isn't fair. I did what I was supposed to do. I did what was supposed to get me to where I was supposed to go. And I'm like, why didn't I? Why didn't I end up with my video? Why didn't it work after all the work I put through?
Wow.
And I can see that as how that could have put a barrier in my current life now to say, well, why don't I make decisions? Why don't I go through the way I used to? Because there was always that memory of, well, I put so much work and effort and I ended up with nothing. And I think that carried on with me because then I said, well, is that always what life is going to be? I follow the rules, what I think are the rules of the universe according to me, what I think is right, what I put effort, just for in the end, the universe and the world around me to say, no, you're not going to get what you want.
Wow.
So many times I think I didn't do many of the things, or I didn't do it the way I was going to do it because I said, well, what's the point if in the end it's just going to be taken away from me? Because I don't like disappointment.
Mm-hmm. And the reason you pulled this card in advance, you said about patient, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because that's what we're working on, my lack of patience.
The lack of patience. So do you see how there is a connection of lack of patience and disappointment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you were young. It
Yes.
was, okay, wait a few years. You will see this movie. You just need to wait. So in order to be me, I need to feel a lot of disappointments around me. I need to feel the experience. So I will be more, it's interesting because, against all odds, it's who you are. Yes, you said in sort of a way, I'm stopping myself to go strive forward like full volume because you might learn how to be patient and how to, adjust and regulate those bursting of emotions as a child that you had. But it seems, that's the limiting belief. I need, to get a lot of disappointments, experiences, in order to be me and to figure out who am I? How can I express myself in the right volume, okay? And to still be authentic and courageous and big as I want and do what I want to do and to create who I am. So what we're going to do in this game, we're going to close this muscle, this mind muscle, which is a road. I love to call it a road. And it's an old way. It's an old way of thinking that it's right now kind of a limiting belief that it's parallel to the condition of to be who you are. Okay? We're going to close it. Muscles becomes weak when we don't use muscles, right? So it's the same as here. What we're going to do here, instead of like working from the same pattern, and then we will create the same condition, and then we're going to create the same story, and many other stories like this. We're going to close it, the limiting belief. And what we're going to do, we're going to build a way, a new way, like 407 way. It's a highway that we're going to practice all kinds of mind muscles that will nourish only your strength and your values. And by that, what we're going to do is to open up to a new road, to a new way to practice those muscles. And this is what we're going to do from step number 3 and on. What are you taking from here today?
Between the memory and my current issues, a deeper understanding how things are linked between the past experiences and present, kind of the present sense of who I am now, and seeing how it's linked together. Because I feel like to be able to solve a problem, it's good to know where it comes from, and to be able to find the link between a current problem that comes from a previous experience. I feel like it's a step towards at least finding a simpler, quicker, easier, more understanding path to be able to fix that. Mm-hmm. So, and being able to deconstruct a memory is really good, because when you think of a memory, it's just the memory and the raw emotions, but you don't have a chance to deconstruct it into because a memory is more than just an initial reaction or visuals. Right. So I like being able to take the memory and almost kind of like with a surgeon, take it apart and see why that memory is what it is, why I feel the way I feel about it. But also you don't usually see the strengths. So True. It's nice to be able to dissect and say, but there's a purpose for this.
It's so true. We're going through a diet from bitterness, a diet from judgment, a diet from guilt and blame, because all those are very low level of emotions. And when we practice them, we go straight into the pattern of the survival mode, the old way. We're going to practice how to shift and how to work it from a totally different place. I'm going to show you a video that gives example of exactly what we're going to do here. So let's watch it, okay?
Many scientists believe that the brain did not change after childhood, that it was hardwired and fixed by the time we became adults. But recent advances in only the last decade now tell us that this is simply not true. The brain can and does change throughout our lives. It is adaptable, like plastic. Hence, neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. How does neuroplasticity work? If you think of your brain as a dynamic, connected power grid, there are billions of pathways or roads lighting up every time you think, feel, or do something. Some of these roads are well-travelled. These are our habits, our established ways of thinking, feeling, and doing. Every time we think in a certain way, practice a particular task, or feel a specific emotion, we strengthen this road. It becomes easier for our brains to travel this pathway. Say we think about something differently. learn a new task, or choose a different emotion, we start carving out a new road. If we keep travelling that road, our brains begin to use this pathway more, and this new way of thinking, feeling, or doing becomes second nature. The old pathway gets used less and less and weakens. This process of rewiring your brain by forming new connections and weakening old ones is neuroplasticity in action. The good news is that we all have the ability to learn and change by rewiring our brains. If you have ever changed a bad habit or thought about something differently, you have carved a new pathway in your brain and experienced neuroplasticity firsthand. With repeated and directed attention towards your desired change, you can rewire your brain.